What's up, guys? Thanks for watching WearTesters on YouTube. My name is Jackson, and today we got a performance review on the Jordan Zion 2. So let's get into it. Starting off with my favorite aspect of the shoe is the traction. You're covered in every single direction. Lateral movements especially are rock solid, as good as you're gonna find. One thing to note is that it took about an hour to break that traction in to the point where it's operating at peak performance. And that peak is really high. What I like about the traction setup is that Jordan Brand was still able to incorporate something cool, something striking, something different visually by putting Zion's logo directly on the outsole and still maintaining top-notch traction. I mean, this is elite level traction. There's levels to this, and this is at the top. Never once did I slip. Dribble moves, cuts, closeouts, drives to the basket, coming off of screens, no matter what it was, man, the Jordan Zion 2 has you covered. The rubber grooves here are pretty thin, and the pattern itself is pretty shallow, so it's not going to be the worst option for outdoor use. But as with most shoes that we see released from these bigger brands these days, they're just not made for outdoor use. So I just wanted to talk about traction for outdoor players specifically, because we get these questions all the time. What shoe is the best if I'm only playing outdoors, or if I want to use my shoes outdoors and indoors at the same time? First off, I don't recommend using your shoes outdoors and indoors at the same time. Have a pair that you use outside and have a pair for indoor use, if you are so able to. But if you are exclusively an outdoor player, I've been there before. I'm fortunate enough now to be able to play in a couple of different gyms, but I've been there. I've been somebody who really only had access to outdoor courts. What should you look for in an outdoor specific shoe from a traction perspective? What you don't want, can you see that? This is the PG5. It's got the same traction pattern as the Kobe 9. It's thin, it's shallow, it's flexible. It works really well inside. Those have never touched an outdoor court, and they never will, because it's gonna chip, it's gonna fray, it's just gonna come right off. It's gonna fall right off the bone like some good barbecue. So what you want is a lot of rubber on the outsole. You want a lot of depth to the tread pattern so that, you're not just burning through a really shallow layer of rubber really quickly. This is like the holy grail of outdoor use for me. This is the Kamikaze 2. This is the Kamikaze 2 low. I don't actually play outdoors in these, but I've played outdoors in the highs. Look, you've got a lot of rubber. Those rubber grooves are really thick. And it's a tough rubber. It's really tough. It's not soft at all.
That's what she said.
And that's good for the really abrasive outdoor surfaces that a lot of us are playing on. Sadly, with a lot of the shoes from the bigger brands here in America, you're gonna get shoes that are primarily meant for indoor use, or exclusively meant for indoor use. Now, you get into these Chinese brands, Li-Ning, Anta, the list goes on, because over in China, so many people only play on outdoor courts. Those brands cater specifically to that market, so they're going to make shoes that are going to last you longer than your typical Nike, Jordan, Adidas, Puma, etc. pair would. So if you had questions about traction outdoors, I hope that helps you out. Now, it was actually a really close race for the best attribute of the shoe between the traction and fit. However, I chose the traction because there literally wasn't anything bad about it. So let's go over the fit. I went true to size, and that's what I recommend for pretty much everybody. Lengthwise, it was spot on. Widthwise, wide footers. You're actually gonna be able to wear this one.
Shut up and take my money.
Specifically in the forefoot, you have a good amount of space. However, for somebody like me who has a foot that's on the narrow side, I was still just fine because you have a functional forefoot strap. It was actually able to wrap around my foot and keep it contained. Amazing, isn't it? Let's talk about the heel for a second. The heel lockdown is great. You've got some Achilles pads back there that are as tough as I've ever felt. When I first put the shoe on, I was a little bit apprehensive because they were rock solid. Most shoes that have sculpting in the collar area, that have Achilles pillows, they're pillows. The Zion 2, they don't feel like pillows. But as soon as I got on court, started moving around, any concerns that I had went away, and what I was left with was like a really, really nice fit in the back half of the shoe. So right here along the midfoot going into the forefoot, the midsole is wrapped with a bunch of rubber. So in the back half here, it's foam, it compresses. In the front of the shoe, it is rubber, and of course, rubber doesn't compress. But here along the midfoot, where that rubber comes up and cups the midsole, your foot actually does sit inside of that a little bit. So for stability's sake, it's really good. So the main reason why the fit actually wasn't the top attribute of the shoe was because where that rubber comes up and cups your foot ever so slightly in the midfoot area, there was a little bit of pinching in there. It was primarily an issue when I wasn't like playing at full speed during shoot-arounds, warm-ups, and stuff like that. Once I was on court, once I was playing full speed, I didn't really notice it. But to somebody that does have wide feet, that could end up becoming an issue. All right, let's talk cushion. So you've got an air Strobel unit in the heel. Nike is describing it as a new, larger than ever heel air Strobel unit. And then up here in the forefoot, you have a standard zoom unit, along with injected Phylon foam to round out the midsole. As far as the heel goes, I thought it was good. The air Strobel feels nice. I'm a big fan of air Strobel. I know everybody and their mother prefers zoom Strobel, and of course, I'm one of those people as well. Air Strobel is a smooth, well-balanced cushion that I liked in its full-length iteration in the PG line, and also in the Zion 1. Speaking of the Zion 1, obviously the Zion 1 had a full-length air Strobel unit. This only has it in the back half, and you can definitely tell the difference. So if you liked that really cushiony setup in the Zion 1, this is going to throw you for a loop because it's nothing like it. What you have is really solid impact protection in the back. The air Strobel unit does its job. It works great. The foam does compress a little bit in the back. Don't expect anything like Cushlon, but it feels good. The forefoot is where things change. All you've got up there is a traditional zoom unit. I know in Chris's initial video, he said that he really couldn't feel it. The good news is, I could. My main problem with the cushion in the forefoot, again, stems from the fact that you have so much rubber that runs up and cups that midsole. What that ends up doing is it doesn't allow the Phylon in the forefoot to compress at all. So you do feel some compression out of that zoom unit, but it's very firm. So my joints were feeling it a little bit after playing a couple hours at a time. The best comparison that I have for the cushion and for the tooling overall of the shoe is actually the Air Jordan 13. With the wide base and the good traction combined with the forefoot zoom unit and feeling pretty low to the ground, you can definitely feel the similarities between the two shoes. Where the Zion differs from the Jordan 13 is it actually feels a little bit lower to the ground, but you do compromise some cushion. So for a shoe built for somebody as big as Zion, I was expecting a little bit more out of the cushion, but actually if you're a guard or a wing player who prefers a lower to the ground setup and a more responsive feel, this actually might be something that you'd be interested in. The materials are incredibly cheap. You've got a synthetic leather-ish material here. And then up front, you've got a really soft mesh that flexes really, really well. But that material in the back, man, it's bad. The material here at the heel is more synthetic. It looks really cool. So while when I first saw the shoe, I thought, hey, that looks like some leather, or at least maybe a decent cut of a synthetic leather. No, it's a leather adjacent material and it's got felt on top of it. You can see right up here along one of these lace loops, some of that felt actually coming off and exposing the material underneath. So yes, while the materials on the shoe are incredibly cheap, if we're talking strictly performance, they work. Like I said earlier, that forefoot strap is actually functional. It does help keep your foot on the footbed, whether your foot is wide, narrow, or in between. And the strength of that forefoot strap allows that forefoot mesh area to strictly allow for flexibility. The tongue is a mixture of a nylon-ish material, which is used for the inner lining of the shoe, as well as some felt up there by the Zion logo. And then you've also got some of that synthetic material that's used on the very back of the shoe. It doesn't allow for a whole lot of breathability. So what you're seeing right now is actually the condition of the shoes after strictly playing indoors in them. So as you can see, they're gonna take a beating, but I don't think it's going to affect the performance or the long-term durability. The support on the Zion 2 is good, and it seems like it was actually made for a player like Zion. Go figure. The support starts here at the bottom with a nice wide base. You have a little bit of an outrigger. There's a shank plate directly underneath that Air Strobel unit that you can see when you take the insole out. In his initial video, Chris did have some concerns about whether that shank plate could pop the Air Strobel unit. I'm happy to say that it didn't happen in my experience. You've also got all that rubber coming up and cupping the midsole in the midfoot and forefoot area. That does add some stability. The fit is really close to perfect. The heel fit in particular is outstanding. So you've got support features everywhere. The shoe is pretty rigid in the midfoot and heel area, but luckily in the front, that mesh forefoot, it really does add some flexibility and mobility to the shoe. And if you're somebody who needs a lot of support, this is a shoe that you should look at. So overall, I'm satisfied. My biggest gripe is actually that rubber that comes up and cups the midsole and the midfoot and forefoot area. While it does add some stability and it does help with the support, it does sacrifice how much compression you get with the cushion in the forefoot. If that rubber was foam instead, I think it would have done the job that it needed to do. It still would have helped with the support, it would have helped with the lateral stability of the shoe, but it wouldn't have sacrificed the cushion the way that using rubber does. The fit is another strong point. If you enjoy cushion that gives you a low to the ground responsive feel, then this might be right up your alley. That's about all she wrote for the performance review on the Jordan Zion 2. Have you played in the Zion 2? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Do you not care? Let me know. Thanks for watching, thanks for all your support, and until next time, peace and much love to you.